Welcome. Happy Monday, happy start of the week, a week that can be very good or the complete opposite, or, somewhere in between. Let's see what happens there because unfortunately, we've been living a bit like this for the last year and a half, the last 2 seasons, in this situation where if things aren't going well for us, they're just not going well. Let's hope things change this week. Uh, Now we're watching the bought and paid for referees too, hoping things go badly for them. And of course, well, that's how football has always been, with how everything is interconnected. And look, if they go another year without the Champions League, obviously you're happy, you laugh, whatever. But honestly, that's not ideal. It's not ideal. The ideal would even be to say, hey, let them win, let them reach the final, because we have such a good team that we're going to get there and beat them in the Champions League final. That would be ideal with Real Madrid, with the squad we built, and with our history and everything. But this is the situation we're in. Careful, this last thing could still happen this week. But anyway, I think one of the two or both will get knocked out this week. And speaking of our side, well, it could be the last one. The last of, let's say, uh, an attitude. Active because we want our club to do well. I mean, as a fan who's always paying attention and so on, we want to stay alive in the big competition since we're already out of the other, right? Because if we get knocked out of this one too, and it wouldn't be the first time we've experienced this, I remember the 18-19 season, which was terrible. Then Zidane came and all that. And of course, you're there at the start of spring already without any hope. And damn, that's really sad, isn't it? That's why I think I say it can't happen. It can't be that by April 15th, we're out of everything. Let's see. Well, I'll put Paco Gonzalez and Lamine Yamal here because this has gone viral and Paco did really well. By the way, on Cope, making this point about that phrase from Lamine Yamal, which we hadn't mentioned here, by the way, which is okay. Barcelona is Blaugrana, you just have to take it, as always. He says this to the Espanyol fans. Look, this hasn't been criticized much in the media because we already know the usual footballer from the Spanish national team, etc. If Vinicius did this, if Vinicius did it, well, anyway, for sending fans down to second division who had previously called him all sorts of things in stadiums where maybe he hadn't even played yet. Okay? And by all sorts of things, I mean everything, right? All kinds of insults, including racist ones. So Vinicius would send them down to second division and all that. But nobody took into account everything Vinicius was getting from the stands. Instead, they just said, look at what a bad sportsman he is, sending them down to second division, right? In this case, Lamine hadn't received anything from anyone except possibly the Espanyol players. And I don't think they said anything to him. I don't think they insulted him. I really don't. We'll find out. Maybe if there's some lip reading, they'll be paying close attention. Not to what Lamine Yamal says, but to what the others say or what they might have said to him. That's for sure. I mean, we'll be watching the crowd. For example, no, he played at Camp Nou. And yet, with that bad attitude. And afterwards, because if Vinicius does it, he does it on the field. And he's hard at 200 beats per minute, and they just called him stupid and a monkey and this and that, right? No, no, this is already after the fact, and the guy posts this on Instagram. But since it's not Vinicius, it's Lamine Yamal. Well, at least, unfortunately, there are some voices on the radio. Generalistas, mainstream, in the mainstream media, that criticize his behavior as they should, but not just him, also Barca. Comparing him to earlier Barca figures who were more elegant, though they benefited from a corrupt system since their club paid the second in command of the referees for over 20 years and gained from it, right? But well, always with the asterisk, which you always have to mention, and before Paco Gonzalez says it, well, look, that's fine. Joaquin Paco,
Where did it go? When I saw Lamine Yamal post on Instagram, Barcelona is Blaugrana, deal with it as always, that's what I thought. I never in my life would have imagined that Iniesta or Puyol, examples of winning footballers who won everything that came their way. I never saw them boast like this. At Barca, I remember the word valors was created. Where has that gone? How can Lamine Yamal, a world football star, say to Espanyol, deal with it as always?
yeah, unbelievable. I'm not sure about Paco since I haven't checked social media yet, but he's probably going to get a lot of criticism, right? Because, of course, don't mess with Barca and don't mess with the gem, Lamine Yamal, don't touch them. This along the lines of don't touch them because nobody can mess with Barca. Let's link this to Matias Prats, who's the son of the legendary Matias Prats and the grandson of another legendary Matias Prats. In Spain, for those of you who aren't from Spain, he's a very famous commentator and presenter on radio and television. Well, the father is still around, the father of this guy we're about to. Now, in case you don't know him, play a clip of him the other day on a show. Well, he's still presenting there on Antenna 3, if I remember correctly. But, well, they say he's even an Atleti fan and sometimes he's taken a jab at Madrid and all that. But did he really say this the other day? Desmarque, a show on Cuatro, I think it is, right? To say this about the Mbappé penalty and say, seriously, referees, what are you doing? Something so obvious, right? What we've been talking about these past few days. And pay attention because the referees have come down hard. Yes, Laporta has been saying that the league has been manipulated and criticizing the referees for weeks and months and years, and suddenly no one has said anything to him, and suddenly this guy gets hit with everything. Well, Matias Prats said this.
Real Madrid is not going to lose the league because of the referees. Okay, that being said, what happened last night at the Bernabeu was a scandal. Mbappé wasn't given a penalty that was as clear as day. That the referee on the field, who was acting cocky, didn't see it seems to me to be...
That's fine there. It's just that this Alberola Rojas guy is an absolutely unpleasant person.
But what about the VAR? Isn't this a clear, obvious, and blatant mistake? Hey, maybe it's retro match day, and yesterday was a tribute to the infamous Negreira.
He's bringing up everything that was said on social media hours later, which was fine, right? Because, of course, what better tribute to the old days than remembering Negreira, right? How refereeing was back then. But not that much, huh? What was done back then is still happening, not because it's retro match day, but because it continues.
The best part is there was no VAR, just like 20 years ago. Anyway, I don't want to distrust the referees.
I don't want to think, watch out, because this kind of phrase was off limits until recently, huh?
But I also don't want to buy into that whole thing about the league being rigged. Madrid has also been favored, but they're not leaving us much choice but to think so. Well,
here's the phrase, Madrid has also been favored. Fine.
It's their loss to doubt their honesty, because what happened yesterday was a penalty here and on the moon.
Honestly, do you see anything really serious against the referees here? I don't want to doubt them, but they give us reasons to be suspicious. Do you see anything extremely serious here? Well, it turns out that Arturo Dauden Ibanez, who was a referee a few decades ago, says he would like the official ESA. What is the official ESA? The official ESA is the official account of the Spanish Association of Football Referees. Spanish Association of Football Referees. He says, I would like the official ESA to make a statement and even consider the possibility of taking legal action against comments like these in the media. Don't these kinds of insinuations undermine the referee's integrity? Crazy, right? And here ESA replies, which is this account. It says, thank you. Wait a moment. It says, thank you, Dauden Ibanez. Regarding Matias Prats's comments on Mediaset, we regret both the content and the manner used. We are reviewing this with our legal advisors. From ASEF, we request a correction and appeal to prudence, moderation, and professional rigor. Now they're bringing up his last name as if the kid isn't professionally independent of his father. Absolutely, man. Maybe he did have some advantages getting there compared to others, right? But anyway, you know what I mean? He says, well, and the professional rigor that his last name should inspire, he says, not everything is fair game just to gain viewers and notoriety. As it says here, Richard Dires tells them here, he says, you didn't have the guts with this one, right? And look, he said it clearly. He accused you, yes, the referees, of rigging the competition. Laporta here once again goes after the referees. Just recently, well, anyway, it's every week, every month. Lately, always with this, hey, not a single word from this association of... Yes, they want to protect their reputation. It's honestly unbelievable. Well, anyway, they do go after Matias Prats Jr., but they don't dare with Laporta. Hey, speaking of referee stuff. Oh, well, another thing. Another one? Of course. Just as someone here named Jason says, these scumbags have only retweeted about Negreira once, and it was just to throw dirt at Florentino. Typical thing, the usual search on the account for the name Negreira. And the only time they said something was on December 16th, 2025, just a little while ago, that they rejected statements that unfairly damaged the reputation of the refereeing community. They say a referee is under investigation. One of the accused, in the Negreira case, refereeing is a guarantee of impartiality, not an excuse. Mind you, they only mention Negreira on their X account that one time Florentino talked about Negreira. It's unbelievable. Anyway, by the way, there were a couple of things here that we hadn't included in the previous video of images stolen from VAR. What happened is that the other ones were more scandalous in the sense that the match was refereed one way with the images VAR had, and in some cases footage had been stolen, and those plays were refereed in a completely different way. These fall into another subcategory, which is that we don't know if they were stolen from VAR at the time, but they could have been penalties. That push on Vinicius in Balados, which we've already talked about. By the way, in that play, when he's entering the box, he starts pushing him outside the box and ends up pushing him inside. And of course, that one with Mbappé in Mallorca just recently, those are plays that I insist we don't know if VAR. I understand that if there was never a replay, VAR is being denied the replays. It's not that they're hiding the footage from them, because these are things that have already happened, that have already been seen, but they're withholding the replays, right? And of course, this is something that should be thoroughly investigated. What's happening in the Sala Labor when these images come up? There are no replays of this, or like we mentioned in the previous video, there's a compilation in recent years, since 2018, since VAR has been around, about that incident with Hugo Duro and Vinicius, where Vinicius ended up being sent off, but before that, Hugo Duro grabbed him by the neck. That handball by Sergio Ramos at Mestalla on the day of the 3 penalties. By the way, there was a handball before Musa from that Valencia player, the hair pull by Marcelo, etc. The thing is, what isn't replayed doesn't exist, or practically doesn't exist. I wanted to add these two to make that list of horrors even longer. And speaking of replays and TV-related things, it has also gone viral. This video of Thierry Henry, former Barca player and all that. Back in the day with Arsenal, he alone knocked us out in a Champions League round of 16 in 2006. But he's a guy that I think Madrid fans don't particularly dislike, especially because later on in his work as a commentator and all that, I think he's a pretty sharp guy. Hey, he coached the French Olympic team, which was the runner-up at the Paris Games, and he wanted to take Mbappé and Camavinga and Tchouaméni and the French players. In the end, Real Madrid said no, but he was coaching the French Olympic team. The other day on CBS, he goes and says this, and we're going to translate it.
And look where he goes and gets on the ball. Not as a number 9. Notice where he is again. You already have 4 players, so there's no need to go there.
They're not
in the middle. But because
I mean, he has to be in the middle as a 9. There's no 9 there in the middle. He's referring to Mbappe's play as a 9.
like Vinicius, have a look. What's going to happen? Camavinga is now your most advanced player.
He says everyone comes in here and we all have to say it. Everyone is standing still. This was the Madrid match they lost to Osasuna in the league a few weeks ago. Everyone is standing still, and the only one making a run, the furthest man forward, is Camavinga, looking for that one too.
Want that, really? But again,
He says, and again he says, look at Mbappe.
now that you're here, stay in and around the box.
He says, you're here, he says, try to stay around the box.
Let them cook. Try to stay
He says, let them cook.
there. He likes to stay on.
He says he likes to stay deeper. He says, now the ball goes into the box. Now make a run, get into the 6-yard box, do what a number 9 has to do. Well, anyway, we've seen it a million times, right? We've seen it a million times with Mbappe, and some might think that I don't want Mbappe to play or anything. Of course not. I mean, of course I want Mbappe to play. Of course, especially since he's our top scorer. Yes. He's a guy who just can't stop scoring goals. But every time I see a picture like this, and I get tons of them on my timeline on X, every time I see one, I just feel like sharing it. I'm going to share it. Because what the number 9 for Madrid does or doesn't do, a player like Mbappe, is so amazing that even one of his fellow countrymen, Thierry Henry, who's also his friend, is telling him, But man, how can you not make the runs of a number 9? You're an atypical number 9. Okay, you like to step out of the box a bit and create more play from deeper areas, but really, what Mbappe does is just incredible. He drops into midfield to receive the ball and plays at an incredibly leisurely pace. Very rarely does he make runs. When he does, like the other day with France against Brazil, he scored some amazing goals because he beats defenders with his pace. It's about working harder and listening to his coaches, because I can't believe Arbeloa isn't telling him the same thing as Henry. Maybe Arbeloa has already said, I give up. Or maybe he doesn't tell him to keep him happy so he doesn't get upset. But that doesn't add up to me because of how Mbappe is. Mbappe is a smart guy. Mbappe is a communicative guy. Damn, he seems like a good guy. No matter how much of a star he is, and yes, there are videos going around showing that he got rid of everyone, Pochettino, Tuchel, Messi, Neymar, he got rid of them all. Honestly, I don't want to focus on that. When I watch him play, listen to him speak, and see how he behaves, I feel he would truly understand this message. The other day in an interview, he actually said it, like, maybe I should run more, defend a little more. Damn, then do it. Just do it. Isn't there a coach who tells him, hey man, seriously? The thing is, if Mbappe made 6, 7, 8, 9 moves like that, I'm not asking you to do it all the time, but do some of these during a match. I'm sure that would turn into goals, man. Yeah, he would score more goals. And look, he's already getting chances. It's just that his aim is off right now, but this way he'd create even more. Well, man, it's just not happening. It's just not happening. These are X-Files kind of things, man. Well, see you in the next one. Thanks for being there. Take care. Bye.